The Varkan Dominion was known across the stars as the greatest military power in the galaxy. Its fleets spanned thousands of planets, each one brought under their control with ease. The Varkan believed no race could match their strength, no species could outthink them, and no world could resist their conquest. Among their many warriors, the Red Talons were the pride of the Dominion. They were trained from birth to fight, to conquer, and to never fail. Now, they had a new target. A small, blue planet called Earth. Intelligence reports had described humans as a primitive species, living in scattered cities and villages. They had weapons, yes, but nothing compared to the Varkan's energy cannons, warships, and battlesuits. The Dominion commanders laughed at the thought. "This will be easy," said Supreme Commander Tarlok. "A simple victory to add another name to our list." The Red Talons assembled aboard their flagship, the Razor Fang. Rows of dark-armored soldiers moved with precision, checking weapons and reviewing strategy. Every detail had been calculated, every outcome predicted. Their sensors scanned Earth from orbit. The planet looked peaceful, almost fragile. Blue oceans shimmered beneath clouds. Green forests stretched for thousands of miles, and tiny cities sparkled here and there. The Varkan considered it laughable. How could such a world resist their might? Lieutenant Varric, one of the youngest of the Red Talons, could not hide a small smile. He had trained for countless battles, yet he felt almost bored. "It will be over before we even land," he said to his comrade, Sergeant Malric. Malric only nodded, his dark eyes cold. "Don't underestimate any enemy," he replied. But even he did not feel the fear that a wise soldier might. The fleet descended. Massive warships broke through the planet's atmosphere like falling mountains. Their energy shields glowed bright, reflecting the sunlight. On the ground, humans were unaware of the approaching danger. Cities bustled with life. Children played in streets, and cars moved along highways. Some humans looked up, noticing streaks of light in the sky. But most thought it was a rare meteor shower. They had no idea what was coming. When the first Varkan ship landed, it crushed buildings beneath its massive hull. The ground shook, and people screamed, running for shelter. The Red Talons emerged, their dark armor glinting in the sunlight. Their weapons hummed with power, capable of destroying anything in seconds. They moved like a storm, confident and unstoppable. But Earth was not as simple as the Dominion expected. Small groups of humans began to react quickly. Soldiers and civilians alike used whatever they could find. Cars were abandoned and turned into barricades. Makeshift explosives appeared from factories and warehouses. Even though they lacked advanced weapons, humans had something the Varkan could not predict: creativity. The first clash was brief but shocking. A group of Red Talons aimed to take control of a city center. They fired their energy weapons, expecting easy kills. But humans dodged, ducked, and used buildings as shields in ways that the Varkan had never studied. One human, a young woman named Sarah, rolled behind a steel container and flung a metal pipe, knocking a soldier off balance. Another, a retired engineer named Thomas, rigged a crane to swing a massive metal beam down on an advancing Varkan. The Red Talons were surprised. They had never fought an enemy that reacted so quickly, so unpredictably. Commander Tarlok watched the reports from orbit. "Minor resistance," he said with a frown. "Nothing they do can stop us." But as hours passed, he began to notice patterns. Humans were small, yes, and their weapons primitive. But they fought with intelligence, adapting to every attack. They used the terrain, the buildings, and even their own vehicles in ways that made the Red Talons falter. Varric and Malric led a squad into a residential area. They expected the humans to surrender quickly. Instead, they found a trap. The streets were lined with debris, and hidden explosives detonated, forcing them to retreat. Human soldiers fired from rooftops, and civilians threw anything they could find. Varric's squad suffered its first losses. It was a small setback, but it shook their confidence. For the first time, They realized that humans were not just weak creatures, they were clever and dangerous in ways the Dominion had never measured. Meanwhile, on Earth, leaders tried to organize resistance. They were not perfect, and chaos ruled many areas. But they communicated, shared information, and made fast decisions. Even without centralized command, humans acted together instinctively. Cities became battlegrounds, but also arenas of courage. Ordinary people did extraordinary things. A schoolteacher led children to safety, then returned to help firefighters rescue trapped civilians. A farmer rigged his tractor to push debris and block advancing soldiers. Every act of human ingenuity slowed the Varkhan, frustrating their plans. By nightfall, the first day of invasion had ended. The Varkhan expected a quick victory. Instead, they faced a planet full of surprises. Their losses were small, but morale was shaken. The Red Talons were trained to adapt to any enemy. Yet humans seemed unpredictable. They did not fight like other species. They did not surrender when threatened. They were stubborn, creative, and fearless in ways the Varkhan had never experienced. Commander Tarlok's calm demeanor began to crack. He reviewed the reports, seeing human tactics that were clever, but primitive in their tools. Yet somehow, these humans made every move count. A single explosion, a well-timed attack, a barricade in the right place. It was enough to stop elite warriors. The Varkhan had fought countless species, all of them calculating and predictable. Humans were not. They adapted, improvised, and survived. In the darkness of their warships, Varric could not sleep. He stared at the images of humans, trying to understand them. How can they be so strong? He whispered to Malric. Malric shook his head. It's not strength in the way we measure. It's something else. Something we didn't train for. The thought unsettled him. For the first time in his life, he questioned the invincibility of the Red Talons. Meanwhile, humans began to recover from the shock. Stories of heroism spread quickly. People shared tactics, warned others of traps, and turned ordinary objects into weapons. A sense of unity grew among them. They were not just defending their homes, they were showing the Varkhan that their planet belonged to them. Every small victory, every human who survived an attack, became a symbol of hope. By the end of the first part of the invasion, the Varkhan had landed on Earth. Confident and arrogant, expecting a quick conquest. Instead, they faced something they could not easily calculate. Humans were small, weak, and primitive in technology, but they were smart, adaptable, and brave. Commander Tarlok clenched his fists as he watched the night reports. The Red Talons had suffered setbacks, and for the first time, he realized that humans were not just a minor inconvenience, they were a threat in a way the Dominion had never faced. The Varkhan had come to conquer. But as the stars twinkled above the blue planet, Earth's defenders were ready to prove that strength was more than weapons. It was courage, ingenuity, and the indomitable spirit of a species determined to survive. The battle for Earth had just begun, and neither side fully understood what was coming. The first day of the Varkhan invasion had ended with unexpected results. Their elite soldiers, the Red Talons, had landed on Earth, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they met resistance unlike anything they had faced before. The humans had shown intelligence, creativity, and courage. Now, the next day began, and the battle for Earth intensified. Commander Tarlok called a meeting aboard the Razorfang. The room was dim, lit by holographic maps of the planet below. Red Talons gathered, their armor polished, and weapons ready, yet the tension in the room was visible. "We underestimated them yesterday," Tarlok said. "They are not the weak species we were told. They are unpredictable." Lieutenant Varric leaned forward, studying the map of the city where his squad had faced heavy resistance. "They do not have advanced weapons," he said, "but they fight together, they improvise, and they use the environment against us." Tarlok nodded. "Exactly. Their technology is inferior, but their minds, We cannot calculate their strategies. Today, we adapt. Today, we strike with precision. Meanwhile, on the ground, humans were already preparing for the next attack. Cities were in chaos, but people worked together in ways that were astonishing. Farmers, engineers, teachers, and students formed resistance groups. They shared information about the Red Talon's movements and learned from each small encounter. No central command existed, yet their coordination seemed almost instinctive. Sarah, the young woman who had thrown the metal pipe the previous day, moved with other volunteers to set up barricades. They dragged cars into streets, reinforced doors, and created makeshift traps using whatever they could find. Thomas, the retired engineer, inspected the city's electrical grid. "We can use this," he said, pointing to a network of power lines. "If we overload it in the right place, it can stop their vehicles and even hurt them." The human strategy was simple but effective. Slow down the invaders, make every movement costly, and force them to think. The Red Talons were trained for war, but humans were teaching them something new. Patience, planning, and clever improvisation could be as deadly as weapons. The Varkon moved carefully at first, striking small areas, testing the humans' response. They attacked a factory, expecting the humans to flee. Instead, humans had prepared. Explosives detonated, stopping their vehicles. Barricades funneled soldiers into narrow streets where ambushes awaited. Varric's squad faced heavy resistance. One Red Talon went down when a steel beam fell from above. Another was caught in a trap of sharp spikes hidden beneath rubble. "This is impossible," muttered Varric as he watched humans fight with coordination and intelligence. "They are not following the patterns we predicted," Malric replied quietly. "It's not impossible. It's different. They fight in ways we do not understand. That is why they survive." 1. In the skies above, human pilots flew small aircraft, dodging Varkon sensors and targeting key enemy positions. Their machines were primitive compared to the Varkon warships, but they used speed, surprise, and clever maneuvers. Bombs dropped from these aircraft often hit critical points, slowing down the advance of the Red Talons. Every strike forced the invaders to adjust, to rethink, to adapt. In one city, a group of teenagers used drones to scout enemy positions. They guided humans on the ground, warning them about traps and ambushes. They had no military training, but their knowledge of technology and the city's layout made them invaluable. The Red Talons realized that even ordinary humans could be dangerous if they worked together. By midday, the Red Talons had learned a painful lesson. Brute force alone could not conquer humans. Every advance was met with clever counterattacks. Humans were small, yes, but their creativity and courage made them formidable opponents. Commander Tarlock, frustrated by these results, decided to escalate the attack. He deployed heavy war machines from orbit, towering robots designed to crush anything in their path. These machines moved like giants across the streets, firing energy blasts and tearing through buildings. The humans were terrified at first, but they did not give up. Sarah and her group acted quickly. They set up traps that slowed the machines, making them stumble or fall. Engineers used explosives to destroy the legs of one robot, sending it crashing into a street. Thomas rigged the electrical grid to create a massive shock, temporarily disabling another war machine. Humans worked in teams, combining courage with quick thinking. Even civilians joined the fight. Workers, students, and families pushed rubble into the machines' paths, cut wires, or used chemicals to create smoke and fire. Every small act counted. The Red Talons began to see that these humans were not just survivors, they were fighters in their own right. In one dramatic moment, Varric and Malric led a squad into a narrow alley, hoping to ambush a group of humans. They expected an easy victory, but the alley was a trap. Humans had set up barricades, hidden pits, and swinging objects. One Red Talon fell into a pit, another was pinned under debris, and the rest barely escaped with injuries. Malric looked at Varric. We cannot fight them like we fight other species. We need new strategies. We need intelligence. Varric nodded grimly. Yes. But how do we match a species that uses its mind as well as its strength? Meanwhile, news of human victories spread. Even small successes inspired others. People from different cities shared information about the Red Talon's weaknesses. They created signals to warn others of incoming attacks and coordinated strikes across different locations. The humans' ability to learn from each encounter made them stronger with every hour. As night fell, the city became quiet. But the humans did not rest. They repaired barricades, tended to the wounded, and planned new defenses. Sarah looked at her group and smiled, even though she was exhausted. "We can do this," she said. "They may have strength, but we have each other and our brains." That is more than enough. The Red Talons, on the other hand, regrouped aboard their ships. Losses were higher than expected. Soldiers were injured, machines destroyed, and morale shaken. Commander Tarlok stared at the reports. "They are small, but they fight with everything they have," he muttered. "And they learn faster than we can predict." He realized that Earth was not like other planets. Humans were different. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and brave. The Red Talons could not rely on their usual tactics. Every action had to be reconsidered, every strategy adapted, and even then, victory was not guaranteed. Varric walked through the damaged streets with a small squad. The destruction was heavy, but the humans were everywhere fighting, surviving, adapting. He watched as a group of children rolled barrels into the path of an approaching robot, distracting it long enough for adults to disable it. He saw people use ropes, pulleys, and even fire to turn ordinary objects into weapons. He felt a strange respect growing inside him. These humans, weak in appearance, were strong in ways the Varkon had never measured. They were clever, united, and fearless. And no matter how many attacks the Red Talons launched, the humans kept fighting. In the northern city, Thomas and other engineers had managed to disable a Varkon command post. They hacked communications, sending false signals to the invaders. Red Talons were confused, moving into traps without realizing it. Humans cheered quietly as each success came, their determination never wavering. The day ended with heavy losses for the Red Talons. They had underestimated humans, and it was costing them. Commander Tarlok's face was grim. He had faced many species, many battles, but none like this. Humans were small, yes, and seemingly weak. But their intelligence, courage, and adaptability made them dangerous in ways the Dominion had never imagined. Varric stood on a hill outside the city, looking at the lights below. Fires burned. People moved cautiously. But the spirit of resistance was clear. Humans would not give up. Not now. Not ever. Malric joined him. "They are not just surviving," he said. "They are teaching us. Teaching us that strength is more than weapons. That victory is not only about power. It is about heart, mind, and unity." Varric nodded. "We came to conquer humans," he said softly. "But I am beginning to wonder, are we the ones being tested?" As night covered the planet, the humans rested briefly, tending to the injured and planning for tomorrow. The Red Talons regrouped, their losses heavy, their confidence shaken. Earth was not the easy conquest they expected. It was a battlefield unlike any other. And the humans had shown that they could fight in ways no one had imagined. The conflict had only begun. But one thing was clear. The humans would not surrender. They were clever, brave, and relentless. And the Red Talons would soon discover that intelligence, courage, and heart could be more powerful than even the strongest weapons in the galaxy. The battle for Earth had raged for days. The Red Talons, the elite warriors of the Varkon Dominion, had landed expecting a swift and easy conquest. Instead, they found humans who were clever, brave, and relentless. Each attack the Varkon launched was met with new strategies, traps, and resistance. Every victory they expected slipped through their fingers. Commander Tarlok paced aboard the Razor Fang, reviewing the reports again. The numbers told a story he could not ignore. Losses were mounting. His elite forces had been defeated in skirmish after skirmish. War machines were destroyed, and even their most advanced tactics had failed to break human defenses. "This cannot continue," he said. "We are losing to a species that should not even challenge us. Find a solution, before it is too late." Lieutenant Varric felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and disbelief. For the first time in his life, he questioned the invincibility of the Red Talons. He had faced countless enemies, each one weaker and predictable compared to humans. But humans were different. They learned, adapted, and fought not only with weapons, but with their minds and hearts. On Earth, humans had not rested. Their cities were damaged, their people tired, but their spirit remained unbroken. Leaders coordinated defenses, civilians improvised weapons, and children and adults alike contributed to the resistance. Every day, humans grew stronger in their tactics and more fearless in their actions. Sarah stood on a small hill overlooking her city. Fires burned below, smoke rising into the sky. People moved with determination, tending to the injured, repairing barricades, and preparing for the next wave. She watched as Thomas and other engineers rigged the city's structures with clever traps, using their knowledge of physics, electricity, and mechanics to turn ordinary buildings into weapons. "We can win this," Sarah said to her small group. "They are strong, but we are smarter. And we fight for each other, not for conquest. That makes all the difference." The Red Talons launched a massive attack the next morning. Dozens of war machines moved through the streets, followed by squads of soldiers. They expected chaos, fear, and surrender. Instead, they faced a city alive with resistance. Humans had anticipated the attack, setting traps along every route, hiding in buildings, and using small drones to monitor enemy movement. A war machine advanced into the central square, its massive legs crushing buildings beneath it. But humans had prepared. Steel cables, hidden in the rubble, wrapped around its legs. Explosives detonated, causing the machine to stumble and fall. Civilians rolled barrels, creating obstacles, while human soldiers targeted weak points with precision. Varric watched the chaos unfold from a high vantage point. Even his training and experience could not prepare him for the humans' tactics. He realized that their advantage was not in numbers or weapons, it was in their unity, creativity, and determination. Malric approached him, grim-faced. "Every attack we make, they learn and adapt. It's like fighting a river that changes its course every second. We cannot predict them, and we cannot stop them." As the battle continued, humans began to turn the tide. Using ingenuity, they trapped entire squads of Red Talons. Barricades funneled the soldiers into narrow streets where explosives and clever traps awaited. Drones guided the humans, warning of ambushes and signaling where help was needed. Even ordinary citizens contributed, throwing objects, guiding vehicles, and creating distractions. In one dramatic encounter, a group of engineers used the city's electrical system to create a massive surge. War machines short-circuited, soldiers were forced to retreat, and the humans cheered. Each victory, no matter how small, inspired more people to fight. News spread quickly. Humans were turning the battle around. Commander Tarlok's frustration grew. His elite soldiers were failing. His machines were being destroyed. And humans continued to resist with intelligence and courage. He called a meeting with his officers. "We cannot continue this way," he said. "We need a new strategy. One that can break their spirit. Find it, or this invasion is lost." Meanwhile, humans were not only defending, they were learning from the Red Talons. Every movement, every attack, was studied and turned into knowledge. Sarah led a small team into a partially destroyed factory, creating new traps and weapons. Thomas rigged machinery to act as automated defenders. Ordinary citizens became warriors, and their combined efforts slowed the Varkon advance. In the northern cities, human pilots continued to strike from the skies. Using small, fast aircraft, they targeted enemy positions, disrupting communications and supply lines. Even though their machines were weaker, their speed, coordination, and surprise made them highly effective. Varkon forces found themselves unable to regroup, constantly reacting to human ingenuity. By the third day of battle, the Red Talons were exhausted, soldiers were injured, morale was low, and even their strongest war machines were failing. Varek looked around at the destruction and felt a mixture of fear and awe. Humans were not only surviving, they were thriving in the face of overwhelming odds. Malrik approached him. "We have trained for every enemy, every battle," he said quietly. "But humans, they fight in ways we cannot calculate. They use their minds, their hearts, and their unity. That is their true strength." Varek nodded. "We came to conquer humans, but it seems we were the ones being tested." As the sun set on the third day, humans launched a counterattack. Using traps, explosives, and clever tactics, they captured several Red Talons. Soldiers who had been arrogant and confident found themselves disoriented and trapped. Even Commander Tarlok realized that brute force alone could not win this war. In a final confrontation, humans set up a clever ambush. Using the city's layout, they funneled Red Talons into a narrow canyon. Explosives, cables, and traps immobilized the invaders. Humans moved strategically, capturing soldiers and disabling war machines. Every action was precise, calculated, and deadly, not with brute strength, but with intelligence and teamwork. Commander Tarlok watched helplessly from orbit. The Red Talons had failed. Every attempt to break human resistance had been met with clever counterattacks. Even the most powerful war machines had been disabled or destroyed. The humans had turned the tide, showing that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the strongest forces in the galaxy. Varek, wounded but alive, stood among the humans. He looked at their determination, their courage, and their ingenuity. He realized that the stories of human weakness were wrong. Humans were not weak, they were powerful in ways the Varkon could not measure. Strength was not only in weapons or size, it was in mind, heart, and spirit. Sarah approached him, offering water and aid. Varek accepted, humbled. For the first time, he saw the truth. Humans were a species to be respected, not conquered. Their unity, intelligence, and bravery had saved their planet and defeated the greatest warriors the galaxy had ever known. The battle for Earth ended not with the destruction of humans, but with the defeat of the Red Talons. Commander Tarlok's forces retreated, their pride shattered. The Dominion had learned a lesson it would never forget. No species should be underestimated. No victory is guaranteed, and courage combined with intelligence can overcome even the strongest foe. Humans began to rebuild, tending to their wounded, repairing their cities, and celebrating their survival. Ordinary people had become heroes, and the world had witnessed the extraordinary power of unity and ingenuity. Sarah and Thomas walked among their fellow citizens, proud and determined. Even the captured Red Talons were treated with fairness. Humans showed mercy, teaching them that victory did not require cruelty, but wisdom and compassion. The soldiers who had come to conquer learned that strength was more than weapons, it was the courage to fight for each other, the intelligence to adapt, and the spirit to never give up. Varek looked at the humans around him. He saw families working together, communities protecting one another, and leaders guiding their people with wisdom and care. He realized that the true power of humans was not in their technology or numbers, it was in their heart, their mind, and their unbreakable will. Commander Tarlok returned to the Varkon Dominion in defeat. He could not explain what had happened. The humans had survived, adapted, and defeated the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Across the stars, other species would hear the tale. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were clever, brave, and strong in ways that could not be measured by weapons or numbers. And on Earth, humans continued to thrive. They had faced a challenge unlike any other, survived against overwhelming odds, and proven that unity, intelligence, and courage could overcome even the mightiest invaders. The story of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy, a legend of hope and inspiration. Humans had shown that they were more than just survivors, they were a force to be respected, a species that could stand against the strongest warriors in the universe and prevail. In the end, the Varkon Dominion had learned a hard truth. Strength is not only in power, weapons, or numbers. True strength lies in courage, intelligence, unity, and the spirit to fight for what is right. And the humans of Earth had all of these in abundance. The battle was over. The humans had won. The Red Talons had fallen. And the galaxy would never forget the lesson of Earth. Never underestimate humanity.